Wait, stop scrolling. This matters. Literally right now, gold just hit $4,120 per ounce. Silver is surging. And something just happened in Venezuela and it's about to change how you think about your money forever. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what's happening, why it's happening, and most importantly, what you should do about it. This isn't fear-mongering, this is reality. And you need to understand this before your neighbor does. So stick with me, because what you're about to learn could literally protect your savings. Let's go. Right now, at this very moment in January 2026, something extraordinary is happening in the world of precious metals, and honestly, most people have absolutely no idea about it. Gold has just shattered through the $4 per $120 mark. Let me put that in perspective for you. Just 1 year ago, gold was sitting at around $2,600 per ounce. That means gold has literally jumped more than 66% in just 12 months. That's the best performance gold has had since 1979. Do you understand what that means? This is historic. This is the kind of move that happens maybe once in a generation. And it's happening right now while you're watching this video. But here's the thing that blows my mind even more. Silver is doing something completely different. Silver has absolutely exploded. We're talking about a 142% surge in just 1 year. Think about that number for a second. 142%. If you had invested just $1,000 in silver at the beginning of 2025, you would have roughly $2,120 today. That's pure math, no opinions attached. Silver started 2025 at about 30 per ounce, and by late December, it had surged to approximately 70 per ounce. Now, just a few days into January 2026, it's continuing that momentum upward. And the reason I am telling you this isn't to make you feel like you missed out. It's because this movement tells a story about what's really happening in the world right now. Now, you might be wondering, why are these metals jumping so dramatically? Well, that brings us to something that just happened this past weekend that literally sent shockwaves through global financial markets. The United States military executed an operation in Venezuela that captured President Nicolas Maduro. I know, Venezuela feels far away, right? But here's where this gets real for your wallet and your future. When that news broke, gold literally spiked 2.9% in a single day. Silver jumped 7%. That's not a normal day in these markets. That's geopolitical shock creating safe haven demand, and precious metals are the ultimate safe haven. Think about it this way. When the world feels uncertain, when governments are doing unpredictable things, when political risk is rising, where do intelligent investors move their money? They move it into things that have held value for thousands of years. Gold, silver. These metals don't care about politics. They don't care about currency wars. They don't care about who's in charge. They've protected wealth since before any of us were born. But here is what makes this Venezuela situation so important to your money. Venezuela sits on the world's largest oil reserves. Larger than Saudi Arabia. Larger than Iran. We're talking about massive energy resources. And the geopolitical uncertainty around those resources, around how they'll be managed, around what might happen next. All of that creates what traders call safe haven demand. People get nervous about the world and they buy gold and silver. It's that simple. And right now, people are very nervous. This is just the beginning of understanding why precious metals are moving the way they are in 2026. But I want you to understand something deeper here. This isn't just about prices going up and down. This is about your purchasing power. This is about inflation. This is about what happens to your savings when governments are spending money they don't have, when central banks are printing money, when the dollar itself is becoming less valuable. And here's something mind-blowing. Central banks around the world have been buying gold at record levels, not little purchases, record-breaking, massive purchases. Why? Because they understand something that most regular people don't. They understand that in a world of uncertainty, in a world of rising debt, in a world where nobody really knows what's going to happen next, gold becomes insurance. It becomes the asset you own when you're not sure about anything else. Think about your own life for a moment. You probably have insurance on your car, right? You probably have insurance on your house. Why? Because terrible things could happen and you want to be protected. Well, gold and silver are insurance for your wealth. They're the insurance policy for when the world gets messy. And the world is getting messy right now. The numbers tell the story. Look at the data from 2025. Gold hit an all-time high of $4,449.71 back in December. Silver reached levels it hasn't seen in over a decade. These aren't small moves. These aren't normal market fluctuations. This is a significant shift in how wealth is being protected globally. Central banks are accumulating gold. Investors are moving into precious metals. Regular people like you and me are starting to pay attention. And now, in January 2026, with the Venezuela situation adding another layer of geopolitical uncertainty to an already complicated world, these metals are staying strong. In fact, many experts are predicting that gold could reach $5,000 per ounce before the year ends. Some are even more bullish, saying we could see $5,500. Silver? There are predictions for silver to hit $100 per ounce, even $150 per ounce. These aren't crazy people making these predictions. These are major financial institutions, major banks, and expert analysts who spend their entire careers studying these markets. So here's my question for you, and I want you to really think about this. If you don't understand what's happening with precious metals right now, if you don't understand why they're moving, if you're not educated about your options, how are you going to make smart decisions about protecting your own wealth? The answer is simple. You're going to watch this video, you're going to learn, and you are going to understand exactly what is going on and what it means for your money. That's why I'm breaking this down for you right now. So now that you understand what's happening with the prices, let's dig deeper into why this is happening. Because understanding the reason is way more important than just knowing the numbers. And this is where it gets really interesting because there are several forces at work here simultaneously, and they're all pushing precious metals higher. First, let's talk about inflation, real persistent inflation. Now, you've probably heard that word thrown around a lot. Maybe you're tired of hearing about it. But here's the reality. Inflation is still above the Federal Reserve's 2% target. That means the purchasing power of your money is still eroding. Your dollar buys less today than it did last year. And precious metals? They rise when inflation is happening because they preserve purchasing power. This is historical fact. This has happened over and over throughout economic history. When governments print money, when inflation rises, gold and silver go up. Second, there's something called geopolitical uncertainty, and we just talked about Venezuela. But it's not just Venezuela. There's tension between major world powers. There's uncertainty about trade policies. There's uncertainty about what happens next in various parts of the world. All of that creates what we call a risk-on, risk-off environment. And in those moments, people buy precious metals as insurance. Third, and this is big, central banks globally have been buying gold at record levels. We're not talking about small purchases. We're talking about thousands of tons. Why would governments do this? What do they know that regular investors haven't figured out yet? They essentially betting that precious metals will be important in a world that becoming more unstable. They're building reserves. They're protecting their wealth. And when central banks move like this, it sends a clear signal to the rest of the financial world. Now let's talk about silver specifically, because silver's story is actually different from gold's story, and you need to understand this distinction. While gold is primarily a monetary asset, meaning people hold it as money and as a store of value, silver is both a monetary asset and an industrial metal. This is crucial. Silver is used in solar panels. It's used in electric vehicles. It's used in electronics and renewable energy technology. So silver has two demand drivers. People buy it as a hedge against uncertainty, and manufacturers need it to make products that the world actually needs. Think about how many solar panels are being installed globally. Think about how many electric vehicles are being manufactured. Think about the boom in renewable energy. All of that requires silver. And here's the problem. There's a structural supply deficit in silver. That means demand is outpacing supply. Year after year, more silver is being consumed than is being produced. This is why some analysts are predicting silver could double or even triple from current levels. It's not just hope. It's based on actual supply and demand fundamentals. Now let Ines address the question you're probably asking yourself right now. If gold and silver are rising so much, doesn't that mean I've missed the boat? Is it too late to do anything? Here's what I want you to understand. These metals are in the very early stages of a much larger move. We're seeing the beginning of something, not the end. Many experts expect gold to reach $5,000 by the end of 2026. Some believe it could go even higher. For silver, the predictions are even more dramatic. We could be looking at $100 per ounce or beyond. But here's the important part. These aren't guaranteed predictions. Nothing in investing is guaranteed. What they are is educated assessments based on real market data. Let me give you some historical context that will help you understand why this matters. Back in 2011, we saw a major surge in precious metals. Gold reached what was then an all-time high. Silver nearly doubled in a few months once price discovery kicked in. We're potentially seeing similar conditions forming right now. That doesn't mean it will happen exactly like 2011, but it means the historical patterns suggest we could see significant continued appreciation. Now, here's something else you need to know about precious metals. They move in cycles. They're not always going up. Sometimes they can be flat for years. But when you're in a cycle like the one we're in right now, when multiple factors are supporting higher prices simultaneously, inflation, geopolitical risk, central bank buying, industrial demand for silver, that's when you pay attention. That's when you educate yourself. The Venezuela situation is important, not just because of what's happening in Venezuela specifically, but because it represents a broader pattern of global instability and unpredictability. When the world feels unstable, people protect their wealth. That's human nature. That's financial reality. And the way people have protected wealth for thousands of years is by owning precious metals. But here's what separates people who make smart financial decisions from people who don't: knowledge. Understanding why something is happening gives you the power to make intelligent choices about it. And that's exactly what we're building toward in this video. I want you to understand not just what's happening, but why it matters to you specifically. Because it does matter. It matters to your savings. It matters to your retirement. It matters to your financial security. So we've established what's happening and why it's happening. Now comes the most important part. What does this mean for your money? And what should you actually do about it? Because information without action is just entertainment. And I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to help you make smart decisions about your wealth. First, let me be absolutely clear about something. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you to go out and buy gold or silver. What I am doing is presenting you with information and analysis so you can make educated decisions. Okay? This is important. You are the ultimate decision maker for your own money. But you should make those decisions from a position of knowledge, not from a position of ignorance. Here's what smart people are doing right now. They're diversifying their assets. That means they're not putting all their eggs in one basket. They have stocks, they have bonds, they have real estate potentially, and they have precious metals. Why? Because when one asset class struggles, another can perform well. Gold and silver often move inversely to stocks. When stocks go down, precious metals go up. So owning some precious metals is like having a hedge in your portfolio. It's like having that insurance we talked about earlier. Now, there are multiple ways to own precious metals. You can buy physical gold and silver, coins, or bars that you hold in your hand. You can buy them through ETFs, which are exchange-traded funds that hold gold and silver and trade like stocks. You can buy mining stocks, companies that mine these metals. You can even buy futures contracts if you're more sophisticated. The point is, there are options. You need to figure out which option makes sense for your situation. For most people, I'd suggest starting with education. Learn more about precious metals, understand how they work, understand the pros and cons of different ways to own them. Read, research, ask questions. Don't just jump in because prices are going up. That's how people lose money. But don't ignore it either. That's how people miss opportunities. Here's a specific question I want you to ask yourself right now. Do you have any precious metals as part of your wealth? Any at all? For a lot of people, the answer is no. They have their money in stocks, in bonds, and savings accounts. And while those things have their place, they don't provide the same kind of protection that precious metals do during times of uncertainty. So maybe the question you need to answer is, how much of my portfolio should be in precious metals? Different experts will give you different answers. Some say 5%, some say 10%, some say 20% or more. The right answer depends on your situation, your risk tolerance, your timeline. But here's what I want you to do right now. Start thinking about this. Start asking yourself these questions, because the world is changing. Geopolitical uncertainty is rising. Central banks are moving billions into precious metals. Industrial demand for silver is climbing. These are facts. They're happening whether you pay attention or not. The question is whether you will pay attention and position yourself accordingly. Now, let me give you some cautionary notes because I want to be balanced here. Precious metals can be volatile. They can go down as well as up. They don't produce dividends or interest. They're speculative in some ways. If you buy high and sell low, you can lose money. So you need to think carefully. You need to educate yourself. You need to have a plan. You need to understand why you're buying before you buy. Also, understand that predictions about where gold and silver prices will go are not guarantees. I mentioned that experts are predicting gold could reach $5,000. That doesn't mean it definitely will. Markets are unpredictable. There are always unknown variables. So don't put money into precious metals thinking you're guaranteed to make money. That's not how it works. But do understand that the fundamentals supporting higher prices are real and significant. Here's what I also want you to understand. Owning precious metals isn't a tea about getting rich quick. It's about preservation. It's about maintaining your purchasing power in a world where inflation is real, where political uncertainty is rising, where the rules of global finance are changing. It's about having insurance. It's about sleeping well at night, knowing that your wealth is protected across different asset classes. Think about this scenario. Imagine you have $100,000. All of it is in cash or bonds or stocks. Now imagine a major geopolitical crisis happens. Your stocks crash 30%. Your bonds underperform. Suddenly, you've lost significant wealth. But what if you had put 10% of that $100,000 into gold and silver? That $10,000 might have actually increased in value during the crisis while your stocks were falling. That's the point. That's why people own precious metals. Now, as I wrap up, I want to ask you something directly. Has this information been helpful? Have you learned something that you didn't know before about gold, silver, and what's happening in the world right now? If the answer is yes, I want you to do something. I want you to like this video. I know it might sound simple, but when you like videos, it helps other people find this information. It helps spread knowledge, and knowledge is power. Second, I want you to comment below. Tell me, did you learn something? What was the biggest takeaway for you? Are you thinking about precious metals now? What questions do you still have? Your comments help me understand what you want to learn more about, and they help other viewers who might have the same questions. So please, take 30 seconds and leave a comment. Third, and this is important, subscribe to this channel, because the world is changing fast. Precious metals are moving. Geopolitical situations are developing. I'm going to keep bringing you the latest information, the latest analysis, the latest understanding, so you can stay informed and make smart decisions. Don't miss future videos. Subscribe right now. Finally, understand this. You now know something that many people don't know. You understand what's happening with gold and silver. You understand why it's happening. You understand what it might mean for your wealth. That knowledge is valuable. Use it. Share it with people you care about. Help them understand too. Because in uncertain times, the most powerful thing you can have is knowledge and understanding. Your financial future matters. Your wealth matters. Your ability to preserve and protect what you've worked hard for, that matters. And that's why I made this video for you. Now go out there, educate yourself further, make smart decisions, and protect your wealth. I believe in you. Now let's go.